Hey everyone, welcome to Our Beautiful Brains. I am Kira Matalasi and I have Juvenile Myoclonic Epilepsy. Right now, I'm going to let you know why I created this channel, so if you want to skip ahead and get to my story and a little bit more about me and my journey with epilepsy, go ahead and skip. I'll give the timestamp below in the description. About 2 nights ago, I was just crying because, if you have a loved one with epilepsy or if you have epilepsy yourself, there's just moments where you feel down and defeated, and I had my first seizure in 3 years. I was right about to hit the 3-year mark. It happened December 8th, right after I just came home from an exhausting day. I wasn't taking care of myself, and it defeated me. I was at home. I had an aura that was unlike anything I had before. If you're anything like me, just the days after your seizure, you're sore, your brain's foggy. There's something called post-ictal bliss, and the world just seems kind of different. So I've kind of just been wandering. I've had to tweak my schedule at work and just how I operate. And it just really had me thinking, and it's had me really emotional. It just had me going back through my head about how many years I felt alone in this, and like no one else could relate to me. I'd look at my friends and see them going out all the time, and they didn't have to worry about anything like drinking water, eating food, or going to bed on time without them having to worry about having a seizure. When I express this to people, they're like, oh, well, there's probably support groups out there. That would be great. You could talk to your doctor, blah, 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 blah. And then when I looked for those support groups, at least in Southern California, there wasn't a ton. I know it's changing, but there wasn't a lot. And then whenever I watched YouTube videos, they were either really outdated, like from 10 years ago. If you're at the point where you're going to the internet, to find stuff, then you're not really looking for stuff that's heavy on the medical terminology to the point where you're gonna have to look and figure stuff out, So I just wanted something digestible. I wanted people to know that they're not alone in this and that they have somebody as a reference point. I wanted to make one thing very clear before I get started. It's that this channel is titled Our Beautiful Brains for a reason, and it's because there are so many different things that come along with the brain and that we don't know about. The brain is literally the human equivalent to the ocean. It's vast, it's complex, it's beautiful, but we don't really know anything about it. So yes, I'm here talking about my epilepsy, but I would love for this to turn into something where I can have people on where they talk about what they're going through with their brains. And I just want this to be a safe space where people could feel like they don't have to look at videos that are 10 years old or stuff that's heavy on the medical terminology to feel heard and safe. So welcome to Our Beautiful Brains, and I hope you enjoy my story. I'll start first with when and how I got diagnosed, which is in senior year into high school. They started off as twitches. If you're unsure what those look like, I'm not gonna, fake do it on here because I know it's still triggering for me. I still get emotional with it, and I know, if you're here, you're probably looking for answers, and I don't want to trigger you as well. So if you're interested, you can look up what they look like, but if you want a simple visual, which you've probably seen before, if you've seen people with Tourette's, it's very, very similar, where it's like a full body thing. It affects your speech as well, so it kind of interrupts what you're going through. It makes you drop stuff, all of that. So I was going through that, and in my head, I was just like, okay, that's weird. Maybe I'm just tired. Maybe because I had 5th period that year, aka you get up at 5 in the morning. I was up on Twitter when Twitter was popping. What happened, I noticed around my sleep schedule. So, when you're a teenager, you're taking a lot of naps. Your body's going through a lot. So it happened right when I woke up for naps, or right when I got up in the morning when I was brushing my teeth, and it got to the point where I was dropping everything I had in my hand. I know I was having a sleepover with my friend one time, and I was getting my toothbrush out, and it literally flew out of my hand because I had one of the tonic-clonic jerks. And that's when my mom started to be like, okay, let's get you in for something. I went to get checked. I believe it's called an EGG. What happens is they tell you to not get any sleep for 24 hours. I wasn't on any medication at this time, so I didn't have to wean off any medication. I had to be completely sleep deprived. I had to go in, No water, I think, either. They just make you as depleted as you can be so they can really get some action going on. And then they literally, if you've seen in the movies where they connect a bunch of stuff to your brain, that's what they do. Not your literal brain, but your head. So they connected a bunch of stuff, a bunch of wires, and then they had me close my eyes, they flashed a sequence of lights, did all these tests, and then afterwards, after a couple hours, they're like, yeah, you have epilepsy. It is probably juvenile myoclonic epilepsy because it usually comes on when you're either a kid or a teenager, hence the name juvenile. They're like, and we got to get you on medication right away or else they could turn into grand mal seizures. I didn't really think anything of it. I wasn't super worried. I wasn't super concerned because, like I said, I had never seen one. I was just going about my life. I was on my medication, but I was still doing the same thing. So that was the how and why. And when I got my first seizure, I'm literally getting like, ooh. It's so hard to talk about this because it's still so prevalent in my life. So my first seizure was in London when I had my senior trip. My mom had been saving up money since I started high school. I went with my grandma, my grandpa, and my mom to London, like the UK. We went to London, Scotland, and Ireland. So I was at the Heathrow airport, and if you know, from LA to Europe, honey, that is no simple flight, okay? That is a 13-hour flight nonstop, and I have traveled a lot in my life, but that I've never traveled that long. Okay, so it was still new to me, and I remember I watched all the Harry Potters on the way there because I just couldn't get to sleep. I was so excited, which I do not recommend. Get as much sleep as you can, especially if you have a neurological thing going on. I did not set a timer because, like I said, I was not so experienced, neither was my mom, and so I ended up missing my dose of medication. We went to the airport, we had to go through customs, all that stuff. So we ended up missing a flight because everything took so long. So then we went to Heathrow, has like an airport in there. So we went to the airport hotel just to chill out for a night and then head out to Scotland in the morning. I remember getting up because I just used to get up and then get in the shower to get ready. So I got up, hopped in the shower, and I remember having one of those jerks, you know, which I later figured out. By the way, it's important to note that these are seizures. They are not, there's a bunch of different kind of seizures out there, so this is also important to note. I did not think that these were seizures. There are partial seizures, there are tonic-clonic seizures, myoclonic seizures, there are grand mal seizures, so don't take it lightly. Just because you're not on the floor does not mean you're not having something going on in your brain. So just pay very close attention to that, okay? So I went up in the morning and I started having those, which at that point I was like, okay, whatever. Like I said, I wasn't tripping. I was 17 years old, so I just wasn't thinking about anything. So I remember being in the shower, I had one of those. I had a bigger one, you know, because the more I was exhausted, the bigger they are. So this jerk was like a couple of them in a row, and then I just black out. I remember waking up in the shower and my mom's freaking out, and then she thought she needed to stick her fingers in my mouth, which, oh my God, listen, if you ever see somebody having a seizure, and this is any doctor will tell you to never put your fingers in somebody's mouth to help them not choke on their tongue. It is literally impossible. I promise you, it is literally impossible to bite your tongue off. Okay? So do not stick your fingers in there. My mom had to get stitches on her finger because she did that. So please do not do that. The only reason somebody can choke is if they throw up, which is pretty common after a seizure, if they choke on their throat, which is why you always put them on their side. Okay, so back to the story. I wake up, my mom's freaking out, and I'm freaking out because I cannot tell you how horrible, if you're watching this as a loved one, how horrible it feels, how confusing it is, how embarrassed you feel. And so I was just on the floor. I remember the shower had one of those, or like my mom had to drag me out of the shower. And I'm not a little gal, honey. I am muscly. I am very muscly. So my mom was pulling me out of the shower. And then I remember she called the ambulance, or she called the paramedics, and they were in there really quick because the UK compared to the US, man, I'll make a video on that later. but the quality of care from people in the UK versus the US is just, it's unparalleled. It's way better, and I was so grateful. This is gonna sound weird, but I was so grateful that my first seizure was in the UK because it was so much better than what I've experienced here in the US. I'm just kind of, how do I put this? Shit. This is even making me nervous as I talk about it. I don't know if there were family members looking out for me because I've never felt that okay after a seizure, ever. So I don't know what it was. I feel like the universe was like, girl, pump it up. Go explore Europe. This is what you need to do before you go to college. So I'm grateful to whoever helped me there. But that was my first experience with a seizure. I'll go over specifically what my triggers are because I feel like it's good for people to know. I touched over it briefly just a second ago. But triggers are mainly lack of sleep because your brain needs time to recharge. When you're sleeping, your brain is healing itself. There's cell repair. There's a bunch of stuff going on. You know, when you're sick, a lot of the time, the only way for you to feel better is sleep and to eat. I know a lot of youngsters out there, okay? Do not think it's important to eat breakfast, okay? Do not think it's important to eat lunch and just barely eat a dinner. But please, my loves, eat, eat, eat. I cannot stress that enough. Your body needs fuel. Your brain needs fuel, especially fats. This is the only body you got for the rest of your life. And if you have something as serious as this is, because it is very serious, please just take care of yourself, genuinely. As I've gotten older, I noticed my body has become way more sensitive. You know, I'm 25 now. So, you know, there's a lot of changes going on in your body. So it happens with men too, but I feel like as a woman, your body's, there's a big change, you know, when you're 18. There's a big change when you're like 21, 22. And then life smacks you upside the head when you're 25 and it's like, listen, girl, you're ready to bear children. We got a job to do. We cannot build all of what we're building. We cannot sculpt you if we do not have the fuel to do so. One of the biggest things too is blood sugar, and this is something I noticed as I got older, and it's something that my friends that don't even have epilepsy struggle with. You need blood sugar, and you don't need to inject like Kool-Aid into your veins. That's not what I'm saying. In fact, highly processed sugar is the opposite of what you need. But it's great to have fruit. It's great to even have like orange juice is something super great to have. Just anything natural to have, but anything on hand is just great. Even if you have some like chocolate chips, has saved me. Apple juice, cannot recommend apple juice enough. Some V8, just something with natural sugars are gonna be your best friend. Here's the end of the video. I want to thank you so much from literally the bottom of my soul, not just my heart, but both of them. I hope this channel can bring peace to you if you're experiencing something, not only epilepsy, but some neurological conditions, and I hope this helps you as caregivers if you're taking care of somebody with a neurological condition. It's a lot. It's a lot, and I hope that this channel one day I can have people on to express, to tell their stories and what they're going through, you know, but I feel like this is something that's really needed. So a very warm welcome to all of y'all, and just know that no matter what, all brains are beautiful, your brain is beautiful, and our brains are beautiful, and yeah, I will see y'all next time. In the life of an epileptic. I'm gonna go check to see if I took my meds, even though I know I did, but I'll just be right back. Alright, my pill case is empty, so that means I did.